10 years, Poseidon, god of the sea, hunted one mortal across the world. His name was Odysseus, and that name is the whole reason why. The sea could have drowned him in a heartbeat. Instead, it took its time. It took everything. 'Cause Odysseus had already won, and then said one word he should have swallowed. It cost him 10 years. Start with the man, Odysseus, king of Ithaca, not the strongest fighter at Troy, not the fastest, the cleverest, the one who dreamed up the wooden horse when 10 years of war had failed. That was his gift and his wound in the same breath. Odysseus needed you to know it was him. The plan, the trick, the escape, none of it quite counted unless his name was stamped on it. The war was over at last. All he wanted now was the rocky little island he came from, his wife, his son, home, that was the whole of it. But home lay across a great deal of water, and every drop of that water belonged to one god. Poseidon, the earth shaker, brother of Zeus, lord of the sea, the storm, and the quake that swallows a city whole. You do not sail around a god like that. You sail where he lets you. The land is borrowed, the sky is loaned, but the sea is mine, from the first shore to the last. Every keel that cuts it crosses my floor. The while, Poseidon paid Odysseus no mind. One more little ship of tired soldiers rowing home. Why would the ocean notice a thing like that? Then the winds pushed Odysseus and his last hungry crew onto a green island none of them knew. Sheep on the hillsides, caves in the cliffs, and not a soul in sight. They found one cave bigger than the rest. Pens of fat lambs, racks of drying cheese, buckets of milk, set out neat, the way something careful and very large kept house. Take what we can carry and go. Grab the cheese, grab a few lambs, back to the ship. Whoever lives here, Odysseus, I do not want to meet him. It was good advice. It was the advice that would have saved every man there. And Odysseus, who wanted to meet the owner, who wanted the stranger's gift and the stranger's story, said no. He would wait. He always wanted to see how the story ended. That was the flaw the sea had been waiting for. So they waited in the cave, eating another man's cheese by firelight. And near dark, the mountain came home. He filled the entrance before they even saw his face. Polyphemus, a Cyclops, one enormous eye in the middle of his forehead, a giant tall as the cave was high, driving his flock in ahead of him. Then he did the thing no one had planned for. He lifted a slab of rock the size of a door, a stone 20 men could not have rolled, and set it over the mouth of the cave, sealed it, sealed them in with him. Trap closed so quietly that half the crew did not yet understand they were already inside it. He lit his fire, he turned, and in the light he saw them, small soft men huddled against his wall. Strangers, in my house. Who are you little things, that walk into a giant's cave and help yourselves to a giant's food? Odyssey stepped forward, with a speech that had always worked before. Guests, he said, soldiers of great Agamemnon blown off course. And by the law of the gods, a host feeds a stranger, and sends him on kindly. Zeus himself watches over the traveler. Zeus, you think a Cyclops fears Zeus? We are older than your gods, little man, stronger, and we do not share. There is no law in here but me. Then, without hurry, the way a man reaches for fruit, he took 2 of Odysseus's men and made his supper of them, there on the floor, while the rest watched and could do nothing at all. This is the part no one tells you softly. There was no fight, no last stand. Just a giant eating in the dark, and the best soldiers in Greece pressed to the cold stone, praying he would fall asleep before he got hungry again. Odysseus reached for his sword and stopped, because if he cut the giant down in his sleep, they would all die anyway. Sealed in behind a rock, only the giant could move. To live, he needed the monster alive. He needed to think. He had one thing in his pack the giant had never tasted: wine, dark, unwatered, strong enough to drop a horse. So Odysseus poured. He filled a wooden bowl to the brim and carried it, smiling, up to the giant who had just eaten his friends. Here, you had your meat. A giant should have something to wash it down. Taste this. You will not find its equal anywhere on your little island. Polyphemus drank. His one eye went wide. He had never had anything like it. He drank again, and the great head began to sway. Good. Good little man. Give me more of this, and tell me your name so I can give you a proper gift before the night is out. Here it is, the cleverest thing Odysseus ever said. the lie that saved his life. My name is Nobody. That is what they all call me at home. My mother, my father, every friend I have. Nobody. Then here is your gift. Nobody, I will eat you last of all, after every one of your friends. That is the kindness of Polyphemus. Then the wine took him, and the giant toppled into a snoring heap. And Odysseus went to work, fast, the whole plan snapping together in his head. There was a great stake of olive wood in the cave, green and heavy. They shaved the end to a point. They held it in the fire until it glowed, and 6 men lifted it together. They drove it into the giant's single eye while he slept. Polyphemus woke into a darkness that would never lift, and the whole mountain shook with a scream that rolled out across the island. From the caves along the cliffs, the other Cyclopes woke and came running and shouted through the sealed stone. Who is hurting you, Polyphemus? Who is doing this to you? Answer us. Nobody. Nobody is doing this to me. Nobody is killing me. Out in the dark, the other giants grumbled that if nobody was hurting him, he was dreaming, or sick, or touched by the gods. And one by one they wandered back to bed. The trick had worked perfectly, maybe too perfectly. It worked so well that no one would ever know Odysseus had done it, and that he could not bear. But blind was not the same as beaten. Polyphemus still had them sealed in, so he crawled to the great stone, rolled it back just a crack, and sat down in the gap with his hands spread wide. He would feel every back that tried to pass. A man he would catch, a ram he would let out to graze. It was a good plan for a blind giant. It very nearly held. Nearly. Because Odysseus had already seen the way out, the way he always did. He lashed the big rams together in 3s, and under the belly of each middle ram he tied a man, buried in the thick wool, hanging on from underneath. First light, the flock pushed toward the gap, and the giant ran his huge hands over every woolly back as it went by, and felt only sheep. Only sheep. His fingers passed inches above the men, and he never knew. My rams. My good rams. Why are you last today, when you are always first through the gate? Do you grieve for your master's eye? If only you could speak, and tell me where nobody is hiding. Clinging to the wool beneath him, close enough to touch, Odysseus held his breath and said not one word. For once in his whole life, he stayed nobody, and it carried him out into the sun. One by one, the sheep bore the men out into the morning, past the giant's hands, down the hill to the ship, still waiting in the shallows. They cut the men loose, drove the giant's own fat rams up the ramp, and pulled for open water as hard as men have ever rowed. They had done it. They had walked into a monster's cave, and they were sailing away alive. And they would have gotten clean away. Every man of them. If Odysseus could have kept his mouth shut. Something was rising in him now, bigger than his fear. He had beaten a giant, a son of Poseidon himself, and no one alive would ever know it was him. He would just be a rumor. Nobody. And he could not stand it. So when the ship was a stone's throw from the rocks, he stood up in the stern, cupped his hands, and shouted back at the blind giant on the shore. Cyclops, if anyone ever asks who put out your eye, you tell them this. It was not nobody. It was Odysseus, son of Laertes, Odysseus of Ithaca, remember the name. His men lunged to hush him. Too late. The word was already gone across the water, and the giant lifted his blind face to the sky, and he was not screaming anymore. He was smiling, because now at last he had the one thing his father would need. Odysseus, tore the top off a mountain and hurled it at the sound of that voice. It missed the ship by a breath, and the wave nearly threw them all back to the shore. And then Polyphemus knelt on the wet rock, raised his ruined face and prayed. Father Poseidon, Earthshaker, hear your son. If I am truly yours, then do not let Odysseus of Ithaca see his home again. Or if the fates have fixed that he must, then let him come late and come broken. Let him lose every man. Let him land alone, in a stranger's ship, to a house full of grief. Far down beneath the waves, in his palace of pale coral, the Earthshaker lifted his head, he had heard. And for the first time, he knew the name of the little king who had hurt his boy. Oh, Odysseus of Ithaca. You wanted the whole world to know that name. Good. So will the sea. So will every wave from here to your door. You will not drown. Drowning would be mercy. You will simply never, ever arrive. The sea heard its master. The bright morning went the color of iron. The wind turned, and 10,000 miles of ocean, every current and every storm, quietly turned to face one small ship. Odysseus had wanted his name remembered. He had just carved it into the memory of the one god who could make remembering it a curse. What Poseidon promised, the sea delivered, for 10 years. 10 years of a home that was always one more storm away. Every time Ithaca came close enough to sea, the water found him again. A wind that should have carried him straight home was sealed into a bag by a kind king named Aeolus, and his own men, certain he was hiding gold from them, tore it open in sight of the shore and blew the whole fleet back out to sea. He lost ships. He lost the giants' rams and the men who rode them. On one island, his crew ate cattle they had been warned never to touch, and a squall came down that left splinters where a ship had been. One by one, the men who had cheered his name off that beach were taken by the water, every last one of them, exactly the way the giant had asked. Till there was only Odysseus, no ship, no crew, no name worth shouting to anyone, just a man on a few lashed planks, in the middle of a sea that would not kill him and would not let him go. You are tired, little king, I know, 10 years tired. You could let go of the wood, you know. The water is warm down here. But no, hold on and suffer. I am not finished remembering your name. Far above the water, on the bright peak of Olympus, the other gods watched, and one of them could not bear it any longer. Enough, uncle. He is paid. He is paid 100 times over. Let the man go home. Even Athena, who loved him, who had guarded him for years, could do nothing while Poseidon's anger was awake. She could only wait. All of them could only wait for the sea to be finished. That is how large a grudge a god can hold. Somewhere in that long middle of the sea, clinging to his raft, Odysseus finally understood the thing that had been chasing him. It was never really about the giant. Blinding Polyphemus was not the sin. Any man in that cave would have done the very same thing to get out alive. The sin came after. Out on the water, when he was already free, already safe, already nobody, and he could not live with being nobody. He had to sign his work. I had it. I had all of it. My men, my ship, the open sea, the way home, and I traded every last piece of it for the sound of my own name in a monster's mouth. That is the moment. Not the eye. Not the wine. The moment a free man stood up in a boat and handed a god a name to hate, because being clever was not enough for him. He needed to be known for it. Could have been nobody, and slept in my own bed by now. I chose to be Odysseus instead, and the sea has been collecting on that name ever since. He had spent his whole life making sure the world would remember him, and it would. That was the horror of it. The world would remember Odysseus forever, as the man the sea would not forgive. He did reach home, in the end, alone, late, broken, in a stranger's ship to a house full of trouble. Every word of that giant's prayer come true, right down to the last one. So, here is the thing to sit with. Poseidon did not hate Odysseus for hurting his son. Gods understand a man fighting to live. He hated him for what came after the fight was already won. There is a kind of pride that is not loud. It does not shout in the middle of a battle. It waits until you are safe, until the danger is past, and then it whispers that none of it counts unless your name is on it. That whisper cost Odysseus 10 years, one whole crew, and every ordinary evening he could have spent with his wife and his son. The wooden horse did not undo him. Winning did not undo him. Needing the credit for it did. Could have gone home as nobody. He chose to be remembered instead, and the sea made very sure that he was. That is the quiet trap in the whole story. Not the monster in the cave, the one in the boat, who could not let a good thing go unsigned. The god of the sea never forgot his name, and neither, 3,000 years later, have we. Odysseus got exactly the wish he shouted across the water. He should have been more careful what he wished for. That was the one word, not a spell, not a weapon. His own name shouted across the water when silence would have carried him home. Now the question is yours. Out on that ship, blind giant behind you, open sea ahead, could you have kept quiet? Or would you have needed them to know it was you? Be honest down in the comments. I think this one is harder to answer than it looks. Every week, I pull another god out of the dark and tell you what they really did. Subscribe, and the sea will carry the next one to you. 'Cause Poseidon had a bride before he ever ruled these waves, a goddess who fled him across the whole ocean to keep from marrying him, and the way he finally caught her is stranger than any storm. You have heard his name your whole life. You have never once heard hers. I will see you there.